Chapter 52, Kings and Queens. Casterly Rock, 294 AC. Arthur stood silently, watching as the king spoke. He tried not to stare at the white dragon that crawled along the king's shoulder. The king's clothes had been burned away, yet he bore no marks of injury. Arthur couldn't decide what filled him with more awe, the dragon that the king had brought back into the world or the fact that he had witnessed the king engulfed in white flames, completely unscathed. His gaze shifted to the body that Richard and Jorah were untying from the stake, then back to the king, who was wrapping himself in a cloak. He was still struggling to comprehend what he had just witnessed. An hour earlier, Arthur had stood with Richard as the king made preparations. He was stunned by the sight of the second dragon egg. He was aware of its existence, but he also understood the trouble Rhaegar had gone through to acquire the white one. When Jorah, the guard, brought the egg back, Arthur felt a surge of surprise. However, as he listened to the king speak to Lorch, his own anger began to rise, even though the king remained calm. The moment he saw the sword plunge into the man's stomach, he was shocked. Watching the repeated stabbings made him incredibly nervous. He glanced at Richard, who seemed to revel in the scene, and then at Jaime, who, like Arthur, wore a worried expression. But what truly terrified him was watching the king carry the egg to the fire and drip his blood into the flames. In that moment, both he and Jaime moved instinctively, but it was too late. The flames engulfed the king before they could reach him, and Jaime's cry pierced the air, revealing the hurt in his former brother's eyes. "He's moving," Richard said, his voice thick with emotion. "What?" Arthur replied, bewildered. "Arthur, he's moving. Look." What he saw next would be etched in his memory for the rest of his life. The king emerged from the fire. His clothes had been incinerated, but he was unharmed, and perched on his shoulder was. "My gods, there's a dragon!" Arthur exclaimed. He glanced at Richard and Jaime, who was grinning broadly. Without thinking, he knelt. It was true, everything Rhaegar had said was coming to life. Jaehaerys was the prince that was promised. He was the Son of Ice and Fire. Once Richard and Jorah had untied the body, they returned to the king and awaited further instructions. Arthur looked at them both and realized that if he were to hold up a mirror, he would see the same expression on his face. "We need to have him delivered to the Dornish." "Should it be here or in Dorne?" the king asked, his voice rising above the loud chirps around them. "Dorne it is," Richard replied with a nod. "My king, what are we to do with the dragon?" Arthur asked. "She stays with me." "My sister stays with me," the king answered, leaving Arthur puzzled. "Jon, what do you mean?" Jaime questioned. "Rhaenys, she's not a normal dragon," the king replied, and Arthur couldn't help but agree. He wasn't an expert, but didn't dragons have 4 legs, not 2? "I don't understand," Jaime said. "I can't explain it, but somehow she's Rhaenys," the king said, and the dragon chirped for a while. Arthur watched as the king began to laugh and then turned to him. "There was a feast for her second name day. Jaime, you were her Kingsguard, and Arthur, you were with my father. Richard, you and Miles got her a book filled with colorful images of Dorne. After you gave it to her, she showed it to father, and when she spotted the cake, she was hungry. She reached out and grabbed a chunk of it. The cake was messy, and she had nowhere to wipe her hands, even though there were 2 pristine white cloaks nearby," the king recounted, laughing as the dragon chirped again. Arthur looked at Jaime, who wore a smile, and Richard, who was also reminiscing. They all remembered that day. For the rest of the night, both Arthur and Jaime had walked around with the princess's handprints on their cloaks. It was one of the few times Arthur remembered Rhaegar being happy, and it wasn't just when he was with Lyanna. Elia was also having one of her better days. "For over 10 years I've been without her. I won't be parted now," the king said. Jaime nodded in agreement. "We can keep her in your rooms for now. Ghost can keep people away, but as she grows, she'll stay down here," the king interrupted, as the dragon, no, Rhaenys, chirped again. We'll need to tell Tyrion. He won't forgive me if he finds out there's a living dragon here, Jaime said, laughing. We should head inside, Richard suggested. I'll see to Lorch, Arthur replied. My king, about his death. Did it have to be? Was there no other way? Arthur asked, concern etched on his face. 100 times he stabbed her, Arthur. 100. She was just a little girl, and that monster stabbed her over and over again. Only death can pay for life, and his death was far more merciful than it should have been, the king explained. Arthur nodded in agreement, and they headed inside. Richard hurried on ahead, eager to get the large man to help carry the body. When they reached him, Walder looked at the dragon and smiled. The king asked Jorah to wait by the door while Walder and Richard walked back to the body. When Walder said it would leave the king unprotected, Jay laughed and said he was with 2 of the greatest Kingsguard that ever lived, he'd be safe enough. I'll speak to Tyrion later. You two need to talk, the king said, and Jaime nodded as he walked on. But the king stopped him. Arthur, Lord Jaime is the reason I'm here, the reason my sister is with me now. Do you have any idea how much that means to me? How much he does? I do, my king, Arthur replied, and Jay nodded before walking to his room. He looked to Jaime and followed him into a large room. They sat across the desk from each other, the first time they would speak together in almost 12 years. Arthur found his mouth dry, almost unable to form words, but the one question he had always wanted to ask was now the only thing on his mind. Why Jaime? Because it had to be done, Arthur. Do you know who Aerys named as his hand? Who he chose to be the second most important person in the realm during those last days? No. Rossart. The alchemist? Chief alchemist, head of the Guild of Pyromancers. Now, why do you think that was? I don't know. Wildfire, Arthur. You know how obsessed he was with it, what he would do once he saw it used. Jaime's voice was laced with disgust, and Arthur could feel it too, the horror of what Aerys had done to their queen. Gods, the screams. I don't understand how this leads to you betraying your oath, how it leads to you killing your king, Arthur said, his voice tinged with accusation. Because had I not acted, he would have burned the city to the ground. That was his master plan, Arthur, his master plan, to incinerate over 500,000 people in the hopes of killing his enemies, Jaime replied, his voice rising. But he, you, Elia, and the children, all of you would have been killed too. He didn't care about me. He certainly didn't care about the half-breeds. Don't you remember what he called Rhaenys when she was presented to him? What did he say? Take her from my sight, she smells Dornish to me. The man was mad, Arthur, and we shamed ourselves by serving him. So you killed him to relieve that shame, Arthur said dismissively. You think I care about shame? I've carried that shame since that day in the throne room, and I've done so gladly. I shouldn't have had to wear it, but I did. My brothers, where were you, Arthur? Where were you when I needed you? When she needed you, where were you? I was in Dorne guarding the king. Not then, Arthur. Not then. When Riella needed you, when I needed you, where were you then? Jaime's voice trembled. I. Arthur mumbled, struggling to find an answer. That boy, Arthur, our king. You know what he told me? A boy of 10 name days. Do you know what he told me? Our oaths were meaningless, Arthur. They meant nothing. If we couldn't protect her from him, what good were we? He was the king, Arthur replied. He was a monster, Jaime shot back. We swore an oath, Arthur. An oath to protect the innocent. Which comes first, our oath or the king's? I killed Aerys because he ordered Rossart to set off the wildfire, to burn them all. But I failed, Arthur. I should have killed him the first time he laid a hand on her. Arthur looked into Jaime's eyes, seeing the hurt and self-loathing that mirrored his own. He had held back his own blade because Rhaegar willed it, but Jaime was right. The king was wrong, and he and Rhaegar had been terribly misguided. Elia, the children, what happened? I didn't know, Arthur. You have to believe me. I never could have imagined he would do that. After killing Ares, I thought it was over. I thought I had saved them. But I didn't. I should have known, Jaime said, his eyes pleading for understanding. For over 10 years, I've cursed you, Jaime. Cursed the day I knighted you. I thought you were my biggest mistake, my greatest failure. I'm sorry for that, for what you had to endure alone, brother, Arthur said. As they sat together, discussing other matters, it was clear that it wasn't just Jaime's tears that filled the room that night. Marjorie, after everything Jaime had confided in her, had tried to be there for him. But it was hard. What he had said and what she had witnessed were overwhelming and confusing. So, she had skipped dinner that night. When Loras asked her why, she told him she needed time, and he seemed far more understanding than she expected. That realization upset her even more. He must have known, perhaps Jaime had confided in Loras before her. As she lay in bed that night, clarity began to wash over her. She almost slapped herself when she realized the mistake she had made. She had accused him of using her, when in truth, Marjorie was grateful for their friendship, but she couldn't shake the feeling of guilt. Jon had been her friend for years, and he had learned the truth long ago. She felt a mix of relief and shame for having been so wrong about him, especially for what she had said. Just thinking about it made everything clearer. Loras knew the truth because he had confided in Jon while they were north. Had she been there, he would have told her too. When she woke up the next morning, she felt much better. There were things she needed to discuss with Jon, but the realization that he had been honest with her, that he genuinely liked her for who she was, made her smile. After washing and dressing, she headed to break her fast and was surprised to find Loras there. Even more surprising was that Joy and Sansa were with him. She looked around, disappointed to see that Jon was not among them. Margie! Joy exclaimed with excitement upon spotting her. Good morning, Joy. What brings you here? Marjorie asked. Loras did, Margie, Joy giggled. Then I must thank my brother, Marjorie replied. Come meet Sans, Margie, Joy said, gesturing. Sansa? Marjorie asked. Sans, Joy confirmed with a nod. Lady Marjorie, Sansa said, rising to curtsy. Please, call me Marjorie. We'll be spending a lot of time together when you come to Foster, Marjorie said warmly. Margie, Joy chimed in, looking at Sansa. Marjorie, Sansa replied with a smile. Margie. Joy giggled. Marjorie greeted her brother and took a seat. A few moments later, Garland and Leonette arrived with their mother. As they enjoyed their meals, Marjorie noticed that Ghost wasn't following Joy, nor was the little black pup. Is Jon not joining us? She asked Loras. He won't be, he replied. When she inquired about Ghost, Joy's face fell slightly. Ghost is with Jon, and Balerion too, Joy said. Balerion? Marjorie asked. Balon, Loras corrected, chuckling. Balon, Joy echoed, shaking her head. Marjorie couldn't help but laugh. It seemed the girl had even shortened the cat's name. Jon was fortunate that his own name was already so brief. Is that wolf pup yours, Sansa? Marjorie asked. No, he has no owner. My pup is gray, and she's called Fawn, Sansa replied proudly. Will Fawn be coming to Highgarden with you? Aye, if it's all right with your family, Sansa said, a hint of worry creeping into her voice. Willis will love her. A dire wolf up close? He almost swooned when he met Ghost. Your brother met Ghost? Sansa asked, intrigued. Yes, when we were in Old Town for my Aunt Lyness's wedding, we met him and Jon while they were collecting Lyness's present. The coat. It was beautiful, wasn't it? Lyness let me try it on once. It was far too big, but so soft, Sansa said dreamily. It was a wonderfully thoughtful gift, Marjorie said with a smile. You and my aunt are friends? Lady Lyness was kind enough to share insights about the South, showing me that my views were a little different from reality. We write to each other. I'm really looking forward to seeing her and the babe. Babe? Marjorie asked, excitement in her voice. Damn, I knew I'd forgotten, Loras admitted, and Marjorie shot him a glare. Loras, she said, annoyed. Loras, Joy echoed in the same tone, then burst into laughter, which made Marjorie giggle. I'm sorry, Marge. I really did forget, he said apologetically. Fine, you're forgiven for now. Are they really coming, Lyness and the babe? She asked, turning to Sansa. They are. They couldn't attend Daisy's wedding in Winterfell, but they're coming with the Manderleys on one of those ships. The ones Jon came up with? Aye, those, Sansa confirmed, and Marjorie nodded. Jon has a ship? Joy asked, and Marjorie took a moment to explain to the girl, who nodded along. Once they finished their breakfast, Marjorie walked with them back to the family wing. She needed to speak to Jon, and the longer she waited, the more nervous she felt. Speaking quietly to Loras, she told Sansa and Joy she'd talk to them soon. Loras pointed her in the direction of Jon's quarters. Marjorie stood outside the room, feeling a bit lost. Although she had been there just the day before, the layout of the family wing escaped her, and she didn't want to wander around like an unwelcome guest. After a moment, she spotted Jorah standing outside the door. He knocked for her, and when Jon opened it, she smiled. Good morning, she said. Jon returned her smile and ushered her inside. Don't be scared. She won't hurt you. Marjorie looked at him, puzzled, until her gaze landed on the creature beside him. Is that a dragon? She stammered before fainting. Marjorie, are you all right? Please talk to me, she heard Jon's voice as she regained consciousness. Jon, I had the most wonderful dream. I dreamt of dragons, she said, smiling as she reached up to touch his face. He laughed softly, and as she looked around, she realized she was lying on his bed. As she shifted, she noticed the dragon crawling on Jon's shoulder. It was stunning, with white scales and blue wings, just like the one she had seen the day before. The realization hit her, what she had seen was real. The dragon, the man, Jon had been riding a dragon. She turned her attention back to the dragon, and it looked at her, tilting its head to one side before chirping. Jon chuckled. It's beautiful, Jon. He corrected gently. Marjorie repeated, smiling. Jon got her some water, which she drank eagerly. As she sat up in bed, he settled beside her. The dragon jumped from his shoulder, its wings still too small to fly. As soon as it landed on the bed, Marjorie threw her arms around Jon. I'm sorry for yesterday. For what I said. I know you're my friend, I didn't mean it, she said quickly, feeling his arms softly touch her back. It's fine. I'm sorry too. I should have eased you into it. I wanted you to know everything, but I should have given you more time. What does this mean, Jon? Will you? Are you going for the throne? Marjorie asked, still not releasing her grip on him. I am. I have to, Marjorie. I need to, Jon replied, and she nodded. I'll help, Jon. Any way I can, I'll help. Grandmother too. My family has always been loyal to yours. I know. Do you think I should tell her? He asked. We should. We? Jon questioned. We, together, she said determinedly. Together, he agreed, and she felt butterflies in her stomach. Together, she thought, leaning her head on his shoulder. Genna. Having the Queen of Thorns in her domain was too good an opportunity to resist. Jaime had mentioned that the Tyrells were on the outs with the crown. If that was true, bringing them to their side would be game-changing. With the West, North, and Reach united, Robert would fall. At best, he'd only have the Vale, Stormlands, and Riverlands, but those would split along the same lines as during the rebellion. Without the North, the other three kingdoms wouldn't be enough. While she had been stunned by Jaime's revelation, she had to agree with him. There would be no one better than Jon to rule the realm. Joffrey was out of the question, and while Tommen could turn out to be different, he was still an unknown. Myrcella was too young, the realm wasn't ready for a queen yet. So she had asked how her grandniece and grandnephew would be treated and was relieved by the answer. She had no fear of Jon harming them, it wasn't in his nature. But she needed to know that once he was king, he would look out for them. Knowing that he would leave their care to Jaime had been the deciding factor. Now she was in the game, the great game, and it was time to meet and evaluate one of the major players. She was under no illusions about the cost of the Tyrell's support, but she was happy that the children already seemed quite fond of each other. Her own wedding had shown her what happened when the match was a terrible one. As she watched the Queen of Thorns shuffle toward her, she smiled politely and willed herself to be on her best behavior. "Lady Olenna, please take a seat," she said, watching as the woman settled in to join her for breakfast. "Lady Genna, thank you for the invitation," Olenna replied. "Once I knew you'd be staying with us, my lady, I looked forward to it." "Me too," Olenna said, glancing at the two imposing guards. She cursed under her breath for not asking Jon to lend her one of his giants, the man he'd brought back from the north, who could easily match these two. She had arranged a plate of soft cheeses for Olenna, knowing the lady preferred them over the heartier meal she herself was enjoying. They ate, making small talk, a skill neither of them excelled at. Once they finished, Genna caught Olenna staring at her. "I wonder if your guards wouldn't be better suited elsewhere, Olenna," she said, dropping the formalities. "I find I enjoy my meals more with them present, Genna. I think they stifle conversation." Genna met her gaze directly. "Left, you and right, go guard the door. Make sure we're not disturbed." "Left? Eric or Eric, it's too confusing for a woman of my age." "I doubt you've ever been confused, Olenna. You haven't met my son too often." "Nor you my husband," Genna replied, and they both laughed. "I've missed you, Genna. There are so few ladies of substance around." "You too, Olenna. We've lost too many of the good ones." "Your good sister was a fine lady," Olenna remarked, and Genna nodded in agreement. "I hear you're not too enamored with our king." "Fat oaf, and a stupid man too. He wants to marry into the Starks of all people." Olenna snorted in disdain. "The Starks are rising. Their bastard is rising further and faster." "Jon is a special boy," Genna said with a smile. "That he is. Your family is very fond of him. Why wouldn't we be? He's made us rich." "You were already rich." "Richer, then," Genna chuckled. She nodded toward the tea, but Olenna shook her head, so Genna poured it herself. Olenna poured herself a cup while she enjoyed another piece of soft cheese, washing it down with her wine. "Your nephew is more than I expected," she remarked. "They both are." "Have you met Tyrion?" Genna replied. "Only briefly. What he lacks in height, he more than makes up for with his wit." "Times are changing, Olenna. One wrong move, and a family could see its fortunes fade." "Indeed, but not if you choose the right side, Genna." "And what side have you picked?" Genna asked, intrigued. "Why, the same one as always, whichever will help us grow the strongest," Olenna said with a smile. "Then it seems we'll be on the same side," Genna said, pouring 2 glasses of summer wine. What are we drinking to? Olenna inquired. To the wars to come, where we will roar and you will grow strong. To fire and blood, Olenna replied, raising an eyebrow as she looked at her. Fire and blood, Genna echoed, watching the smile that appeared on Olenna's face. Illyria had been so quiet since returning from Casterly Rock. Had she not witnessed it herself and seen what he had gone through, she would have been even more worried than she already was. But she had been there, and seeing him like that had frightened her. For a moment, she feared he had been poisoned or given some potion, or that something had been slipped into his drink. But Oberyn knew more about poisons than anyone she knew, so the chances of someone being able to affect him in such a way seemed unlikely. This led to even greater worries, that he had somehow lost himself. Seeing him fall to his knees, hearing him call out for his niece, had almost broken her heart. She knew that doing so in the company of Lannisters would upset him even more. But she had been unable to speak to him since then, unable to see how hurt he truly was. He had all but shut her out of the room. When his daughters came to visit him with Ser Demon, she noticed their guilt right away. They had been so excited about the prospect of catching Lorch that they had. She celebrated the news and quickly wrote their father a note to inform him it was done, only for him to vanish without a trace. Thankfully, she found the note before Oberyn did. The last thing he needed was more disappointment right now. Dismissing the matter, she returned to the room and found him lying on the bed, almost curled into a ball, tears still glistening in his eyes. "My love, please talk to me," she urged, her voice filled with concern. "Tell me what ails you so. Let me comfort you, please." He was so small, so young. How could they do this? A girl like her, she was the sweetest girl, Illyria. "The sweetest girl," Oberyn replied, his voice hoarse and raspy. "We'll make them pay, my love. We'll make them all pay, I swear it, on blood and sand, I swear it." He simply nodded and wrapped her in his arms. She held him as he sobbed, eventually drifting off to sleep. When she awoke the next morning, he was sitting at the edge of the bed, a broad smile on his face. Overjoyed to see it, she jumped up and kissed him. "Where is he?" she asked. "Who?" he replied, confusion crossing his features. "Lorch. I found the note. They have him." "Where is he?" "Oh, my love, I tried to keep this from you. They never had him. They saw him and wrote the note before they actually captured him. They let him get away. They let Rhaenys' killer free. The fools, the damn fools," he said angrily. "He's here somewhere, my love, in Lannisport. We'll find him again," she reassured him, and he nodded. "What happened, Oberyn? What did you see that caused you such pain?" The cat, Illyria. The cat was hers, Balerion. I was there when her father gave it to her. Her eyes were so happy. I called it Balerion, the Black Dread Reborn, and from then on, that's what she called it. I know that cat well, many times it scratched me or anyone who got too close to Rhaenys. Seeing it, I got lost, he said softly. "How is it here?" she asked gently. "I do not know. The girl, she played. It seems happy, even if it's a Lannister playing with it now," he said, a hint of bitterness in his voice. "Hill," she replied. "What?" "The girl's name is Joy Hill. It seems your niece's cat has found its way to one of my sisters." She smiled, and he mirrored her expression. "I need to know more, to understand why it's here, but first, I need to find Lorch." "My love, what about the mountain? I thought you didn't want to cause a stir." "I may have stirred things up enough last night," he said with a soft laugh. "Are you feeling well now?" "I am, my love." "Thank you for giving me time," he said as he leaned in to kiss her. "Of course, my love." They were sitting together, breaking their fast when the girls arrived. She had never seen him so angry with them. His daughters, without her presence, were willful, as were the ones they had together. All but Sarella had earned his ire at some point. But today, he shamed them, piercing them with his words, and she waited until they left, feeling he had gone too far. Was that necessary? She asked. It was. We're in a dangerous place. We cannot play games here. If I won't, then neither should they. You hurt them, Oberyn, she said, and he nodded. I didn't do it out of spite, my love. They needed to know, to learn. They know they've failed me, that I think less of them today than I did yesterday. But this will spur them on to be better tomorrow. They may resent you for it. They will live because of it. I can handle their resentment if it means my girls have the long lives their cousins didn't get the chance to live. Jaime. Speaking to Arthur had been emotional, but it was something he had wanted to do for the past 10 years. Finally, he had the chance to tell the truth, to speak to his mentor, and to make peace. He had never dreamed he would get such an opportunity, let alone be accepted and acknowledged for what he had done. It was freeing. Once they finished discussing everything, Arthur asked to speak to their smith about having a full helm made, one that covered his face. He would be staying here from now on. Jaime felt a surge of joy. Jon would have the best protector imaginable, and with Loras by his side, they would also have Arthur to assist with their training. Not to mention Jors and Walder, too. Although Jaime trained daily with Jon and Loras, he often felt he didn't have enough time to devote to them, as his duties frequently pulled him away. But now, with Arthur joining them, they could expand their lessons and explore different weapons and techniques. When Jaime arrived at his room and found Daisy still asleep, a smile crept across his face. He undressed quietly and slipped into bed beside her, though not quietly enough, as she turned to him with a smile. "You're late," she said. "I had a lot to discuss," he replied. "Want to talk to me?" she asked, her hand teasingly undoing the lace of her nightgown. "Oh, we can do much more fun things than talk, I think," he said as he moved closer to her. Yes please," she replied, and his lips found hers. As they lay there drifting off to sleep, Jaime knew he had made the right choice to wait until morning to share everything. The events of the previous night, the things he had witnessed and their implications, would be better spoken of in the light of day. It felt like only moments later when he woke to sunlight streaming through the windows. Daisy was already getting dressed, and he reached for her hand, pulling her back to the bed. "We're late," she said. "I'm a lord, and you're my lady." "We're allowed to be late," he replied, and she laughed. "There are some things I need to tell you about last night, my love," he said, his tone serious. She nodded, her curiosity piqued. "What things?" He shared the story of the dragon and Lorch, explaining why Jon had killed him and how it had all unfolded. He also told her about his conversation with Arthur, including the news that his sister and son would be joining them soon. When he revealed who the boy's father was, Daisy's mouth fell open in shock, much like her reaction to the dragon revelation. But after a moment, she nodded, encouraging him to continue. Once he finished, he waited anxiously for her response, but his worry seemed unfounded. Lorch got what he deserved, and Jon was right to do it himself, she said first. He was? He asked, though he agreed. He who passes the sentence swings the sword. That's how it is in the north. Jon may have spent much of his life in the west, but he is of the north. The dragon? If we can keep it a secret until it's big enough, it'll be a blessing. Robert won't be able to stand against a dragon, she said, and he nodded. Arthur? How do you feel about him? All my life, he's been who I wished to be. I never thought but we're good. Having him here will be good for Jon, it'll keep him protected. I'm happy he's alive and we have the chance to clear things up. We're not there yet, but I think we can be brothers again, Jaime said, leaning in to kiss her softly. The boy worries me, Jaime. If what you say is true, he's trueborn. Will he want Winterfell? And if he does, what do we do? I don't know. We need to speak to Asherah and Jon too, but Arthur said he'll talk to him about it. I can't see Jon supporting his claim, not now that he's made his peace with Ned, not now that he's pledged to him. So I don't know. Me either. What do we do now? I need to talk to Jon. I think he planned on telling Marjorie. They're good together, Daisy said. She's a good friend, Jaime replied. Daisy laughed. What? Gods, are all men slow or is it just you? They're far more than friends. What? They can't be. She's only, they're too young, he said, confused. But they're a love match if ever I saw one. Trust me, in a year or two, they'll know it too, Daisy said, looking completely serious. Do you really think so? He asked, his brow furrowed. I do. Jaime, what are you thinking? It's what she'll want, Olenna. It'll be her price to back Jon. If they're already a love match, it makes it better. No, Jaime, you can't. They don't. I know it yet, if you do this, they may never find out. I need to talk to my aunt. We can figure this out, but you're right, I have to sort this out first. After getting dressed, they headed to breakfast, finding the room nearly empty. Geryon sat with 3 wolves, feeding them himself, with no sign of joy or their owners. Loras was also missing, as was his aunt. Tyrion was there, though, and he smiled at them as they took their seats. Sleep late, brother? I did. Have you seen Jon? No, not yet. I think he's still in his room. What about Loras? He, Joy, and Sansa went to have breakfast with his family, but that was hours ago, Geryon replied. We need to talk later, all of us, including Jon. Something happened. Something incredible, Jaime said, glancing at Tyrion. What is it? Tyrion asked. Eat first. We'll go see them afterward, Jaime replied, and both Tyrion and Geryon looked at him, intrigued. Meanwhile, Jon's smile lingered from his conversation with Marjorie when Arthur came to see him. Rhaenys took delight in teasing him about it. Understanding exactly what Rhaenys was would be better suited for Tyrion. She was his sister yet not entirely, his dragon yet not fully that either. She was more than just a dragon and less than just his sister, but the connection was closer than he could have ever imagined. Rhaenys was happy, and that was all that mattered. He could talk to her, and she would respond, her voice and mannerisms familiar to him. The dreams he'd had of her felt alive in that moment. It had been strange trying to feed her. She turned up her nose at the raw meat, only devouring it after he cooked it over a flame. Soon, brother, I will make my own fire. How soon? He asked, recalling his studies that suggested it could take weeks or even months. Days, brother. Just days. How can it happen so quickly? Magic knows. Magic, brother. We both have magic in our blood. As he ushered Arthur into the room, Jon caught sight of Rhaenys asleep on top of his clothes in the chest. He realized he needed to create a space for her, a proper place where she could rest. His gaze drifted over to Ghost's corner of the room, where the small basket lay where the pup slept. Yes, something like that would do. Arthur sat down, scanning the room, trying to catch a glimpse of the dragon. Jon pointed to the chest, watching the smile spread across the knight's face. She looks so peaceful, my king, Arthur said. Please, Arthur, just call me Jon. You'll need to get used to it, you're sticking around, aren't you? Jon asked. I am Jon. And you and Jaime? We're good. We've talked. You were right, Jon, he's loyal. I'm sorry if I doubted that. You didn't know, Arthur. Have you figured out how you can stay? I have. I'm having a helm made that covers most of my face. You can dye your hair too. That way, you won't need to wear the helm all the time. I hadn't thought of that. Thank you, Jon, Arthur said, smiling. There's something else, Jon. Something you need to know. Go ahead. My sister Ashera is alive. She and her son, your cousin. Cousin? Ashera married your uncle Brandon. They had a son, Cregan. I'd like them to come here, to stay with us. A cousin. He had another cousin. Wait, Brandon, his uncle Brandon had a son? That would mean, oh, by the gods. Jon, are you all right? What? Yes, sorry, Arthur. It's just that, it's a shock. You realize that makes him. He doesn't want it, Jon. It's not what he wishes for his life, not what Ashera wishes for him. We have no intention of claiming Winterfell. My sister just wants her son to know his family. It may be too difficult now for him to really know the Starks, but he can know you, if you'd allow him to. What does he want, Arthur? From life, I mean. To be a. He's just a boy, Jon, just like you. What would you want if you weren't destined to be a king? I have no idea, Jon said, laughing. Arthur joined in the laughter. But when Jaime was my squire, that was what I wanted too. So, I can understand it. I'd like to meet him, Arthur, him and your sister. Then I can send the letter. Do so. If they arrive soon enough, he could meet Sansa before she leaves for Highgarden. We could let them meet without revealing the truth, couldn't we? I think so. Thank you, Jon. This means a lot to me, and it will mean a lot to my sister too, Arthur replied, smiling back at Jon. Anything else you need to tell me? Jon joked, but his smirk faded as Arthur spoke. It's not just my sister and nephew who want to meet you. There's a Red Priestess, Melisandre. She's here to see the prince that was promised. You know this priestess? When we were in Bravos, Ash got sick. I thought I was going to lose her. A Red Priestess helped her, and we moved to Volantis. While we were there, they showed us things. Things? Jon asked, intrigued. Visions, Jon. I saw a lion standing in front of a small white wolf. The wolf grew bigger and licked my hand. As I raised dawn, I saw the wolf change into a dragon as an army approached us. I saw the dragon fly and engulf the army in flames, then fly back, and once again, the wolf was by my side. It seems I'm not the only one who has visions, Jon said. Jaime mentioned it a little, Arthur replied. I've seen my father, Arthur. I've seen my mother, Elia, and Aegon. But mainly, it's been Rhaenys. We're connected. We were both dragons. If she had lived, my sister would have hatched that egg. But so it was left to me, and now somehow she's there too, Jon said, looking at the dragon with a tear in his eye. She used to keep it in her bed, you know. The egg. She would sleep with it, and then one day, she told your father it was her brother's too. Jon smiled. I saw that. She showed it to me. Was that when my father knew? Your father believed that the dragon needed 3 heads, Aegon, Rhaenys, and Visenya. But Rhaenys convinced him he was wrong, it was you, not Visenya. As he studied more, he became convinced she was right. You are the prince that was promised. The Song of Ice and Fire, Jon said, and Arthur nodded in agreement. Jon rose and walked over to the chest, retrieving his sketches. He carried them to Arthur, showing him one of Rhaenys as she would be now, another of his mother, and the last, still in progress, was just shapes for now. But when it was finished, it would depict them all, his father and mother, his brother and sister, Elia, and himself, the family that should have been. In another part of the castle, Tyrion sighed when Jaime brought him to Jon's room. He saw the giant guarding it and felt a wave of apprehension wash over him. The mental image of standing beside that formidable man was now all too real, and he looked up, feeling even smaller. Jaime nodded, and Walder whispered something to him, though Tyrion caught the name Arthur and wondered who that was. He didn't have long to ponder it, as they entered the room to find Jon speaking with a tanned man whom his uncle was eyeing strangely. "Arthur," Jaime said, and the man nodded in acknowledgement. "Uncle, brother." "Ser Arthur Dane," he introduced himself. "What? But I thought." Tyrion stammered, glancing at Jaime, who simply nodded. "I made a promise, my lord, one which I'm no longer beholden to. From now on, I will stand by my king's side," Arthur declared. All Tyrion could think about was the pity he felt for anyone who dared to harm Jon, Jaehaerys, or whatever name he went by now. They would find themselves up against a legend even more storied than the Bolts. The Sword of the Morning was alive and standing no more than 5 feet from him, and he could feel Gerion's excitement beside him as well. His uncle had quickly joined Jon's cause, and now he was tied in two, fully aware of the stakes. The fact that Ser Arthur was alive and there with them brought Jon some comfort, though he had no idea that what he was about to witness would provide even more. Jaime glanced around the room before turning to Jon, who smirked and nodded toward the chest on the floor behind him. "She's asleep, my lord," Jon said. "I think my brother and uncle would like to see her, Jon." "I'm sure they would." "Give me a moment," Jon replied as he walked over to the chest and knelt down. "She?" Jaime asked, intrigued. "You'll see," Jon said with a hint of excitement. Tyrion waited patiently for a few minutes as Jon knelt by the chest. When Jon finally turned to face him, Tyrion nearly fell to his knees in disbelief. He rubbed his eyes, trying to comprehend what he was seeing. Perched on Jon's shoulder was a small white dragon. Its wings were blue underneath and white on top, and it had 4 legs. Tyrion stared in awe, and when the dragon chirped and Jon began to speak to it, he almost laughed. They were conversing. Jon was talking to a dragon about Tyrion. "No, he's not a child. He's just small. But sometimes, even a small man can cast a very large shadow," Jon said, and the dragon chirped in response. "See, you agree," Jon chuckled. "Jon, that's a dragon," Tyrion said, still in shock. The dragon chirped again. "He's usually cleverer than that, Rhaenys," Jon remarked, eliciting more chirps. "She'd like to meet you, my lord." "She?" "You can, your dragon wishes." Tyrion stumbled over his words, but thankfully his feet moved toward the dragon. He reached out his hand to touch her scales. The dragon almost purred at his touch. Her scales felt so warm that he nearly burned his hand. Tyrion gazed at her in absolute awe. It was everything he had ever thought impossible, and yet, there she was, right in front of him. When she chirped again, he looked at Jon, who was smiling with a look he had only seen when he looked at his sister, Joy, or Marjorie. "She likes you," Jon said. "Says you smell right." Tyrion might have felt offended at another time, but in that moment, he was simply captivated, touching a dragon. A dragon who said she liked him? "That's quite the offense," Tyrion mused, looking at the little creature. "Rhaenys," he said softly. "Rhaenys," Tyrion repeated with a smile. Just then, Geryon approached and reached out to touch her. While she was friendly and didn't bite or breathe fire, Tyrion sensed that she was less welcoming to him than she had been to Jon. Perhaps that was just his own hope and ego talking. After a moment, the dragon started chirping again. Tyrion watched as Jon nodded and gently took her from Geryon's hands. A sense of loss washed over him as Jon laid her down in the chest, where she quickly drifted off to sleep. "What did she say?" Tyrion asked, surprised at his own willingness to accept that the dragon could speak and Jon could understand her. "She said a girl needs her beauty sleep, my lord," Jon replied, and Tyrion burst into laughter. "She's amazing, Jon." "That was the white one, the egg, I mean." It was, my lord." "The other's not ready yet?" "Will it be?" Jaime interjected. It will. It's different, I can't explain it. The bond is different, Jon explained. Tyrion wished he could ask more questions, but Jaime gestured for them to sit. You told him, Arthur? Jaime asked. I did. I'm to send for them, both them and the priestess. Priestess? Jaime raised an eyebrow. A red priestess. It's a long story, my lord. I'll speak to you about it later, but we need her to come and for them to bring the things Arthur collected. What things? Jaime asked, curiosity piqued. Things that will help. But before that, we need to talk about the Tyrells, Jon said, and Tyrion looked at him intently. What about them, Jon? I'm going to tell Lady Olenna. Are you sure, Jon? Arthur asked cautiously. I've told Loras and now Marjorie. I need to tell Olenna too, before she finds out some other way. Fine, we'll go speak to her, Jaime said. No, it needs to be me, Jaime. I'll tell her, and then you can speak to her later. No doubt they'll want something. I don't want to be involved in this, Jon said. Why not? You're clever enough, and you're going to be king. Shouldn't you be the one to discuss it with them? Tyrion asked. Tyrion, Jaime said reproachfully. No, he's right to ask. I need to be questioned from time to time. I don't know everything. You should feel free to question me, especially here in private, Jon replied, and Jaime nodded. I'm too close, my lord. I'm too tied in. It's like asking me what reward House Lannister should get for everything they've done. I can't be the one to decide, I'd give away everything, Jon explained. Tyrion chuckled. So you want clearer heads to do the negotiating? Yes, I do. Jaime's my hand, and I have full faith in him to make the best deal. Plus, he'll have your help, no doubt, my lord, Jon said, and Tyrion nodded in agreement. I have another job I'd like you to do for me, Tyrion, Jon continued, walking to another chest and pulling out a journal. I've been trying to find time to read this, but with everything that's been going on, I haven't been able to. He handed the journal to Tyrion. What is it? Tyrion asked. It's the Maester's journal from before the rebellion, Maester Whaley's. My uncle says it suggests some things about the rebellion that my mother's letter also hinted at, and my father's too. But I want to read it before I hand any of it over. It suggests there was more to it than it seemed. Perhaps you can find something in there. I'll read it tonight, Jon, and let you know, Tyrion promised. Thank you, my lord. I need to go visit Lady Olenna. I should be back before long, but you can lock up here. Jon handed Jaime the key before leaving. Tyrion quickly glanced through the book. It was rare to find a Maester's journal. Protocol dictated that the new Maester send it back to the Citadel. He was excited to read it. If it contained any of what Jon suspected, he was even more eager to get started. Do you know what she's going to want, right? Jerian asked. I know. It's a small price, and he likes the girl, Jaime replied. He more than likes her. They'll be a good match, Tyrion added. Wait, are you talking about giving them a queen? Arthur inquired. That'll be the price. There'll be more too, but that will be the main one, Jerian confirmed. Should we be doing this behind his back, Jaime? Arthur asked. He knows. Deep down inside, he knows. But it's to be kept between us. Let him come to realize it himself, lest he thinks he was forced into it, Jaime explained. Meanwhile, Olenna was growing impatient. Marjorie had told her that she needed to speak with her about something important, but now she was just sitting there, silent. No matter how much Olenna pressed, Marjorie refused to share any more details. Olenna drummed her fingers on the table, glancing left and right at the stillness around her. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, she could wait no longer. Turning to her granddaughter, who was fidgeting nervously, she said, "Marjorie, what is going on?" "I can't, grandmother." "Not until Jon gets here," Marjorie replied. "Jon? What does Jon have to do with this? Has that boy done something?" Olenna asked, concern rising in her voice. "No, grandmother. It's just that he needs to speak to you too. It has to be both of us, together," Marjorie explained, a little smile creeping onto her face. Olenna didn't like that smile. Together? What did she mean by that? Just as she was about to press for more information, she was informed that Jon Snow was outside. She told the guards to let him in and waited. When Jon entered, he looked as nervous as her granddaughter. It suddenly hit her, the poor fools, the poor romantic fools. She felt a strange sense of relief that they were still so young, playing at games they didn't fully understand. She smiled at him, which only made him more anxious. "My lady, I wonder if I may speak to you in private, without your guards," Jon said. "Of course, left and right, you two wait outside." "We are not to be disturbed," she said, hoping the boy and her granddaughter would take her words to heart. "My lady, I'm not really sure how to say this or how I'm supposed to approach it. I know there's some protocol for such things, but I'm not familiar with it, so I'll just come right out and say it," he said. "Very well, Jon," she replied, trying her best to appear less imposing. "My lady, my name is not Jon Snow. It's Jaehaerys Targaryen. I am not a bastard, but the trueborn son of Rhaegar and Lyanna Targaryen. I am the rightful king of the Undulls, Rhoynar, and First Men." Olenna glanced at the boy, then at her granddaughter, and back at the boy, beginning to laugh. But then she realized she was the only one in the room laughing. She looked at him again and noticed the confused expression he shared with her granddaughter. "My lady, perhaps this will clarify things," he said, handing her a letter. As she read it, each line made her heart race faster and faster. By the time she reached the end, she was breathing heavily and shaking, the color had drained from her face. Marjorie, her sweet rose, was speaking, but Olenna couldn't hear the words. "Jon, get the maester, hurry," Marjorie urged. Olenna grabbed her hand and shook her head. "Water," she managed to say, watching as the boy, the king, fetched her a mug of water, which she drained in one go before asking for another. "Grandmother, are you well? Do you want me to get the maester? Should I fetch mother?" Marjorie asked, concern evident in her voice. No, I'll be fine. I just need a moment," she said, looking at the boy. She was pleased to see him not only concerned for her but for Marjorie as well. He looked to her granddaughter and touched her shoulder with his good arm. His arm, what had happened to it? And his face, there was a scar there. "How were you injured?" she asked, focusing on him. The one clear thought she had was, we were attacked. They pretended to be bandits. We lost one of my guards. He said this sadly. Pretended? Olenna asked. Yes, grandmother. They attacked without demanding coin or anything. They just started firing arrows at Jon, Marjorie said, her voice filled with anger. Do you know who it was? Olenna pressed. No, but I'll find out. I have someone checking, he replied. Who? Perhaps my people could help? Olenna suggested. The boy smiled, and in that moment, she recognized it. That smile belonged to a prince, a little princess, Rhaegar's smile. My man will find out who it was. He's very good at it, my lady, he said. Your man? Olenna asked. He replied, and she smirked when he wouldn't reveal more. Good, he had learned the first lesson. Does Lord Jaime know? She asked. He is my hand, my lady. He knows everything, Jon said proudly. What about Loras? Olenna inquired. I told him while we were north, my lady. I swore him to secrecy. He's my friend, he said warmly, and she noticed how Marjorie brushed his hand with her own. So, you have the Westerlands then? Olenna probed. I have House Lannister, my lady, Jon nodded. And the north? Olenna asked. My uncle is with me, he replied. Who else? Olenna pressed. You should speak to my hand about that, my lady, he said, a hint of a smile on his face. Olenna laughed. You've been trained well. I'm learning, my lady. My house cannot afford for me not to. Indeed. So, I take it you wish for House Tyrell's support? I do, my lady. Where House Tyrell goes, the Reach follows. We must support him, grandmother. After what his house did for ours, Jon would make a fine king. You know that, better than Joffrey or Robert, Marjorie said firmly. I understand certain considerations would be due, my lady. Lord Jaime awaits you to discuss them when you're ready. You don't wish to discuss them yourself? Olenna asked, raising an eyebrow. I wanted to tell you the truth, my lady, which I've done. I could sit and we could. I would negotiate, but I have too much respect for your house to do so. I have too much respect for my friends, my lady. What if we were to fall out over something trivial? How would that affect my friendships? No, my lady, that matter and this one must remain separate, so I'll keep out of it for now. So, if we were not to support you, you would still value your friendships? Grandmother, what are you saying? How could we not support House Targaryen? How could we not support Jon? Marjorie said, her voice rising in anger. She felt Jon's gentle touch on her back, a silent gesture meant to calm her. I was friends with your family long before I knew I was a king, my lady. I will remain so, regardless of any choices you make. Then it seems I must speak with Lord Jaime, she replied, and Jon nodded in agreement. Perhaps you and my granddaughter would like to spend some time together. I find I need to have this discussion now. As you say, my lady, Jon responded, turning to leave. Grandmother, please, we must do this, Marjorie urged, offering her a smile as they both exited the room. She slumped against the chair, realizing what a fool she had been. All this time, the truth had been right before her eyes, a king hiding as a bastard. She had to give Ned Stark some credit, he had fooled them all, except for Jaime Lannister. Gods, Jaime had seen the truth and acted upon it, reaping the benefits. She chuckled, thinking of all that Jon had already accomplished, not even crowned yet and already aiding the realm. She filled her glass and drained the wine, feeling the need for something stronger. The West, the North, the Reach, perhaps the lords of the Narrow Sea, some Crownland lords, and the Riverlands. Though, considering how House Tully had behaved, perhaps not. Edmure Tully was a complete fool, he'd be lucky to come out of this with his head intact. No, the River Lords might split again, and Dorne would likely stay out of it completely. So, the Stormlands, the Vale, and some of the River Lords, 2.5 against 3.5. But in terms of numbers, it would be. The odds were heavily in their favor. House Tyrell would stand with House Targaryen once more, and she was certain they would grow strong together. A smile spread across her face as she thought of Marjorie. Her granddaughter was already half in love with the boy, and she was delighted to see that the feelings were mutual. How long had it been since the realm had a king and queen who married for love, a king and queen truly deserving of the crown? Oh, my sweet little Rose, all this time I've been maneuvering in a game to make us stronger, and you have surpassed all my expectations and hopes. While I've been playing, you haven't just been winning the game, you've captured the heart of a king.